Hi, my name is Rabbi Eliezer Cohen, and I never expected to die like this. It was an ordinary evening. I was in my study, a place I had spent countless hours, surrounded by ancient texts, pages worn by time and touched by generations of hands before mine. The candlelight flickered as I traced a passage from the Talmud, a verse that had puzzled me for years. A man does not know the day of his death. I remember pausing, my fingers lingering over the words. How many times had I read this before? How many times had I pondered the mysteries of what lay beyond this world? But that night, something felt different. There was an unease in the air, a stillness that wasn't natural. Then everything changed. It started with a sharp pain in my chest, a sudden crushing weight. My breath caught in my throat. I reached for the table, trying to steady myself, but my fingers slipped against the wood. The room tilted, the texts blurred before my eyes, and in that moment, I knew. I was dying. I wanted to cry out, but my voice was gone. My body refused to move. A terrifying cold spread through me, not from the air, but from within. My vision darkened, the candlelight fading into an abyss, and then nothing. No sound, no feeling, no thought. For a moment I ceased to exist, and then I was looking down. I saw my own body slumped over the desk, my hand still resting on the sacred pages. My wife burst into the room, her face pale with panic. She called my name over and over again, but I couldn't answer. I tried to reach for her, but my hands weren't hands anymore. They were something else, something I couldn't understand. I wasn't flesh, I wasn't breath, I wasn't human. A strange silence surrounded me, not the silence of an empty room, but something deeper, heavier. It was as if the world itself had paused, holding its breath. And then I felt it. A pull. Not a hand, not a force I could see, but something unseen, dragging me away from my study, away from my wife's desperate cries. The room blurred, dissolving into shadows and light. It felt as though I was being stretched, pulled through a space that did not exist, yet was more real than anything I had ever known. I tried to resist, but there was no fighting it. And then I was somewhere else. At first I thought it was darkness, but it wasn't. It was something beyond black, a vast expanse where there was no up, no down, no sense of direction. And yet, I was moving. Then, in the distance, I saw it, a light. Not the soft glow of a candle, nor the blinding glare of the sun. This was different. It pulsed, alive, as if it knew I was approaching. I drifted closer, my fear growing with each moment, because deep down, I knew this was no ordinary light. It was something ancient, something aware. As I neared, I became aware of whispers, faint at first, then louder. They weren't voices, not in the way we understand them. They were thoughts, memories, echoes of lives that had come before me. I heard laughter, sobs, prayers, and then something else. A presence. It stood before me, not in form, not in shape, but in existence. I couldn't see it, but I knew it was there, watching, judging. And in that moment I realized something that shook me to my very core. I had spent my entire life studying the Torah, seeking wisdom, believing I understood the nature of the soul. But I was wrong, because what I saw, what I felt, was not what I had been taught. This was something far greater, something terrifying. And it was only the beginning. I stood before it, before something, though I still could not see it. I could feel its presence wrapping around me, not in a way that was physical, but in a way that was absolute. It wasn't light, it wasn't shadow, it wasn't even sound. It was knowledge, it was knowing, and it knew everything about me. My thoughts were no longer my own. They were being unraveled, thread by thread, exposed and laid bare. Every moment I had ever lived, every word I had ever spoken, even the silent doubts I had buried deep within me, all of it was no longer hidden. I felt the weight of my choices, the times I had turned away when I should have stepped forward, the kindnesses I had given and the moments I had withheld them. My greatest joys and my deepest shames, all displayed before me, though there was no screen, no vision, no book. It simply was. I wanted to close my eyes, but I had no eyes to close. I wanted to turn away, but I had no body to turn. There was nowhere to hide. And then it spoke, not in words, not in sound, but in something deeper. It was as if my very soul was being spoken to. You have sought truth. The weight of those words crushed me, because it was true. I had spent my entire life in study, searching for meaning, searching for answers. But standing there, if you could even call it standing, I felt like a child grasping at the edges of something far too vast for me to comprehend. And yet there are things you were not meant to know. A shudder went through me, though I had no body to shudder with. I had always believed that knowledge was something to be pursued, something to be embraced. But now I was being told that some things were meant to remain hidden. Why? And then, before I could even form the question fully, it showed me. Before me, as if pulled from the very fabric of existence, a book appeared. But this was no ordinary book. It was not parchment, nor paper, nor stone. It was made of light, not the kind that shines, but the kind that reveals. The pages turned on their own, shifting with a silent grace, and I saw everything. Not just my life, not just my past. I saw lives before me, people I had never met, yet somehow I recognized them. Their faces, their voices, they weren't strangers. They were part of something bigger. And then the pages turned again, and I saw what comes after. I saw the moment of death for thousands, millions. I saw souls lifted, carried, some greeted with warmth, others left wandering. Some who were at peace, others who clung desperately to something unseen, as if trying to resist where they were being taken. And then I saw something that made my very essence tremble. I saw what was beyond that. I cannot explain what I saw, not fully. Not in a way that makes sense in human words. But I will tell you this. The way we have understood the afterlife, it is not what we think. It is not just light or darkness, not just reward or punishment. It is something far more complex, and it is something we are not prepared for. I felt myself being pulled further in, as if I was being given a glimpse of something no man was meant to see. And that's when the voice, no, the presence, spoke again. There are things hidden from man for a reason. There was something in that statement that sent a deep, overwhelming fear through me. Not the fear of pain, not the fear of suffering, but the fear of knowing. Because in that moment, I realized we are not meant to know everything. Some things are hidden because they must be, because to know them would change everything. And then I saw it. A presence. But this was not like the one that stood before me. This was something else. Something that should not have been there. It was lost, wandering, stuck, and it was crying out. Not in sound, but in anguish. I knew without being told what it was. A soul that had not moved forward. A soul trapped. And then the presence that had been speaking to me shifted. The book of light closed. And I understood. There was a reason I was being shown this. There was something I was meant to learn, something I was meant to bring back. But only part of it, not all of it. Because some things, even now, even as I speak to you, some things must never be known. I wanted to turn away, to unsee what had been revealed to me, but there was no turning away. No closing my eyes, no shielding myself from the truth that now burned within me. What I had witnessed was something no man was ever meant to see. Something that shattered the simple, comforting ideas we held about life and death. I had always believed in the afterlife, in the world to come, in the judgment of the soul. But this was not what I had been taught. This was something far more intricate, something that could not be explained in the language of men. It wasn't just a place of reward and punishment. It wasn't just heaven and hell. It was more than that, more than we could ever comprehend. I saw souls, countless souls, moving, shifting, existing in ways I couldn't describe. Some were at peace, bathed in light, not the kind that blinds, but the kind that knows. Others were struggling, caught between something, trying to move but unable to. And then there were those who should not have been there. I felt them before I saw them. A sense of longing, of despair, of something missing. These were not souls at rest. These were not souls moving forward. They were stuck. I do not know where they were meant to go. I do not know why they were left behind. But I knew, without needing to be told, that this was not how it was supposed to be. I had spent my life believing that when we pass, we are judged, we are guided, we are sent to where we belong. But these souls had no guide, no direction. They were searching for something they had lost, or worse, something that had been taken from them. And then I heard it. A voice, not from the presence that had spoken to me before, but from one of them. A soul reaching out, pleading, desperate. Help me. The words were not spoken, yet I heard them, not through my ears, but through my very being. A cry that resonated deep within me, not as sound, but as something felt. I wanted to reach out, to help, but I had no hands, no body, nothing physical to give. And yet, I knew that I was meant to see this, that this moment, this horrifying revelation, was part of why I was here. These souls were not at peace, they were not moving forward, and no one was coming for them. Why? The question formed in my mind before I even realized it. Why were they still here? Why had they not moved on? Had they done something so terrible that they were abandoned? Forgotten? And then the presence spoke again. Not all who are lost have sinned, not all who are found are righteous. The weight of those words crushed me, because it meant that what I had believed, the simple idea of good and evil, of right and wrong, of reward and punishment, was not as clear as I had thought. There was something else, something no one had told us, something we were not meant to understand. And then I was given a choice. It was not spoken, it was not announced, but I felt it. Two paths lay before me. One led forward, to a place beyond all understanding, a place where I would finally know. The other was back. Back to the world I had left behind. Back to my wife, to my family, to my body that had already begun to cool. But there was a cost. If you return, you must tell them, but not everything. The words, the warning wrapped around me like chains. Some things must remain unknown. I hesitated. I had spent my entire life searching for truth, studying, questioning, debating, praying. And now, when I was on the brink of understanding everything, I was being told to turn back, to return to the uncertainty of life. I wanted to go forward. I wanted to see what lay beyond. But the presence made it clear. That knowledge is not for the living. And I understood. If I stepped forward, I would not return. I would not wake. My body would remain lifeless. My wife would grieve. My students would mourn. If I went back, I would never fully understand what I had seen. I would carry only fragments, echoes of something far greater. But I would live, and I would have a purpose, to tell them. But only what I was allowed to tell. The choice was mine. And with a deep, aching sorrow, I turned back. And then I woke up. I gasped. Air flooded my lungs like a raging fire. My body jerked violently as though I had been pulled from the depths of an ocean, drowning in the very air I had just lost. A burning sensation spread through my chest, a sharp stabbing pain reminding me that I was alive. I could hear voices, muffled at first, then clearer, rising in panic and disbelief. "He's breathing!" I felt hands gripping my arms, my face, my shoulders. My wife's sobs filled the room, raw and broken. I tried to speak, but no words came, only a strangled, desperate gasp. I was back, but I was not the same. I could still feel it. The presence, the weight of what I had seen, the knowledge that was now imprinted in my soul like a scar that would never fade. I wanted to cry out, to tell them what I had witnessed, to make them understand the terrible, beautiful truth I had touched, but I couldn't. Because there were no words, no language could contain what I had seen, no sentence could capture what I now knew. I tried to sit up, but my body refused. My limbs were weak, my hands trembling, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. 7 minutes. That's what they would later tell me. 7 minutes I had been gone. 7 minutes without a pulse. 7 minutes in which my soul had left. But it had felt like an eternity. I looked into my wife's eyes swollen from tears, filled with relief and terror. She had thought she lost me. And in a way, she had. Because I was no longer the man she knew. The doctors would say it was a miracle, that my heart had simply restarted, that science could not explain what had happened, but that somehow I had returned. But I knew the truth. I had been sent back, and I had been given a mission. For days I could not speak of it. The weight of it crushed me. At night I would wake, gasping for breath, reaching out as if I was still in that in-between place, as if I was still being judged. I would hear whispers in the dark, echoes of the voices I had heard on the other side. Not all who are lost have sinned. I saw them in my mind, those trapped souls, reaching, crying out. I heard the warning. Some things must remain unknown, but I also knew I could not stay silent. So I began to speak. Not all at once, not everything, but pieces, fragments, just enough to make people question, to make them see. I told them death is not what we think. It is not a doorway that simply swings open to paradise or punishment. It is something much more profound, much more deliberate. I told them the afterlife is not just a destination. It is a process, a journey, a reckoning. I told them that the soul is laid bare in a way we cannot fathom, that every thought, every action, every secret we think we carry dies with us but does not disappear. And then I warned them, because I had seen something else, something I was not allowed to speak of, something so terrifying, so world-altering that even now I feel its shadow lingering in the corners of my mind. I will never reveal what I was forbidden to say, but I will tell you this. Death is not the end, and there is something waiting for us. Something far beyond our understanding, something that we are not prepared for, but we must be, because one day, sooner or later, we will all stand where I stood, and in that moment we will know the truth. The question is, will we be ready?